Szefc, questions for Coach Szefc.
Coach Szefc, just your thoughts and expectations as we head into a new season. How you feeling?
We got about 2 weeks left, and it's good that we have 2 weeks because we still got a lot of preparation that we have to do. But I mean, we feel pretty good about it thus far. Knock on wood, we haven't had any major injuries in the preseason, so we feel like we have the availability of our players, which is, if you don't have that, you're in a lot of trouble. Obviously, a lot of things have changed with the ballpark, with the surface being new, lights as of last year. Still kind of working on finishing up the new turf bullpen in left field. Got a lot of work done to the indoor facility, so there's been a lot of change here, facilities-wise, which has kind of helped us prepare for the upcoming season. So, I mean, considering all we lost last year, the injury and the draft, we feel like we're in a pretty good place. We're in a very similar place to where we were 2 years ago, where we have a lot of players that you don't know who they are, on the mound specifically. Very similar to what that was in 2022. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, 2 years ago at this point, I wasn't really sure what we were going to be at that point. I can tell you that I can't really tell you exactly. I can't put numbers on it and say, hey, we're going to be this and this, or I don't know. All I do know is I think we got a lot of the guys that have come in, both freshmen and transfers, are good enough to be immediate impact ACC players. And we're just going to roll it out there and see what it looks like.
To be better than the team was last year,
yeah.
What areas of improvement are you looking at, or is this just a question of health?
I think the health is a big part of it, and I think we've got to play defense and pitch a lot better than what we did last year. But I do think that if our guys are available and they're not injured, that we will. I think part of our problem, our problem started last year when Griffin Green got hurt, and then everyone was asked to do something a little bit more than what they were doing. And and then Hurley got hurt, Brady got hurt. It was like, DeMartini could only DH, so it was kind of on and on and on. So, part of our success in 22 is not just that we had a lot of good players, but the main thing was that they were healthy. And we had one injury the whole year, and it was to one of our backup players. So we were really lucky that year, in that we had the access to our players. And any coach would tell you that they want to have that they need to have that to have success. And so I'd tell you the same thing.
What do you like about your pitching? What you have there?
Well, it definitely is depth. That's the right word to use. It's a deeper staff probably than we've had here in the past. The one thing we don't have returning on that staff is returning ACC starts. People would say, "Wow, man, that's not good." We had 0 returning ACC starts in 22, and that worked out pretty good. I think as far as the staff goes, you have a lot of talent, you have a lot of experience, not necessarily here, but there's a lot of guys on that staff, 8 in particular, that had pitched at other places last year. But, we're in this day and age of the transfer portal, so that's a lot of athletic rosters, team rosters are going to look that way. So you bring guys in, you get them acclimated with the program and our system and what we do, and you trust that their ability is going to fit in this conference and this level, which I have no doubt that it will, based off of what we've already seen. And you trust that they're good enough, and you're going to run the best matchups out there day in and day out and see where it goes.
Going off that, Coach, do you have any idea right now what the starting rotation will be?
No, I can't tell you I do. I can tell you that if you ask me that question in about 8 or 9 days, I will. But the thing about our preseason here is really short. I mean, you can't really start playing inter-squad games till the 26th of January. So we're sitting here on the 2nd of February. I have an idea of 6 to 8 guys that might fit into that, but those guys still have 2 more outings before we even play. So I could tell you 3 or 4 guys, and it might be the other 3 or 4 guys, based off of what Charlotte looks like, righties versus lefties. They have a lot of new players too. So you're looking at a lot of, uncharted waters here as far as comparing scouting reports of who we have to play, and then seeing how our guys are going to match up with that scouting report.
Is there at least a clear cut number one in your mind, or not? And is that where the hell out is?
No, I don't think there is, man. I think the whole number 1, 2, 3 thing. I mean, some places might have that. I think the other thing is that a group of arms that you run out there against Charlotte could be your initial starting 3. It might not be the same 3 you run out there the next weekend against Rhode Island, or 4 weekends from that against Notre Dame. A lot of it's going to be based off of, how they, honestly, like there's 2 really high-level freshmen in that group, Brett Renfro and Madden Clement. So they could fit into that, but like it's uncharted waters for them. They haven't thrown a college inning yet, So it's very similar to like Drew Hackenberg 2 years ago. He didn't pitch in the fall. He hadn't thrown 1 college inning yet. No one knew anything about Drew Hackenberg, who he even was. Nonetheless, how he was going to perform. So, I think you have those 2 guys. You have a guy like Griffin Stigger, who you guys are going to talk to. Like he's a really high level guy who has experience mainly out of the bullpen last year, but he's come a long way in a short period of time. But what people remember about him is his maybe relief outings last year. That's all they know. So they don't really kind of know where he's at now, where Renfro's now, Clement, some of these other guys. We have Brady Kirtner, who's back, who didn't sign with the Mets. Like that's a big addition to our staff, whether it be as a starter or as a middle guy, or he can pitch in just about any scenario you ask him to. But that's like a really high level arm that's back, and we've been kind of building him up to potentially start. So like there's a lot of ways we can kind of go with it. I just can't tell you as I stand here February 2nd exactly how that's going to unfold right now.
Coach, obviously former Florida State coach Mike Martin passed away recently.
Yeah.
Your feelings on him and any stories or interactions you've had with him?
Man, Coach Martin was about as good a guy as there was in this game. I mean, I think people that didn't know him personally, like look at his numbers and his accolades as being, he's this great coach, which he was. I mean, he won a ton of games. I would say there's a stat that he had that I think was the most impressive stat to me. He had won like 40 games for like 30 straight years or something like that. Like that's incredible because you're dealing with a lot of different classes of players. You're not running Tom Brady out there for 15 straight years. You know what I'm saying? Like the players change, and he changed with them. I can tell you, like I had a good relationship with him when I was at Maryland before I came in, when Maryland was still in the ACC, and I got to know him a little bit then. And honestly, like the best story I can tell you about him was it was pre-COVID. It was right around the time he won. It might have been his 2000th game or something at the time. I don't know. He won so many games. And we were down there that weekend, and I brought both my sons with me, who were younger at the time. And that guy, man, was like the most welcoming, nicest guy you ever want. Like that weekend was all about him. But if you watched how he interacted with other people, and like I just remember like bringing my sons up to the plate to him, do the lineup card thing. And I mean, it was never about him to him. It was always about other people, So as good of a baseball coach as he was, and it was really, really good, obviously, he might have been a better person, actually.
Coach, in terms of Carson's growth, both as a player and as a leader, how does he look? How does he excel coming to your career? Yeah.
I mean, I'd say he's right on time. Like he had that freak injury last year. He had to have the labrum surgery in the summer. He's come back well. Is he 100% right now? Probably not, but it's February 2nd. I would say in another 2 weeks he'll be right where he wants to be, but like it's a gradual comeback, And with the weather being up and down here, certain days he'll kind of turn it loose, and other days when it's cold out here and windy, maybe he won't. But we have Clay coming back from surgery. One of our freshmen, Ethan Gibson, none of you even know, like he's coming off of a surgery. He's a really high level guy too. So all 3 of those guys play the left side of the infield. We have to make long throws. So we've been trying to be really like careful with the amount of with the amount that we asked them to put their foot on the gas this early, understanding that we're trying to get to May here with this group. You know, is it about February 16th? Yeah, it is, but there's a lot that happens after February 16th. But in relation to Carson, I mean, obviously he's an elite level player. I mean, from a hitting perspective, defensively, I mean, you know, he started as a true freshman on that 22 team, so his experience is probably off the charts compared to a lot of other guys in college baseball. I think when you combine all those things together, you know, you have a pretty elite level guy right there, you know. And I think probably where he's matured the most probably is not actually even in his baseball. It's how he kind of handles the group and directs the group, and where other people around him become better. It's almost like the point guard that makes everybody better with how he sets them up and can distribute the ball. Well, that's kind of the way he is, I think, on a baseball perspective. You know, like he's going to be good. Like his skills are way advanced. You know, I'm not really even. I have no concern about what he is skill-wise. I don't really have any concern about him. Period. It's just, for me, it's actually more fun to watch him interact with guys and help grow guys as opposed to watching him take BP or something like that.
What stood out to you about Garrett, his growth in the summer and the offseason?
Well, I mean, you talking about another pretty advanced guy. Started as a freshman, had a really good summer in Cape Cod. I mean, he's probably one of the more experienced, decorated hitters. Like that would be a middle of the lineup kind of guy in this league. I would expect he'd be a really high level run producer as far as RBIs and slug as he was last year. And I think that experience from last year and what he did in the summer in Cape Cod is only going to help him be that more advanced this year. So I mean, I think he'll be one of the more elite level offensive players in our league. I can't tell you exactly what his numbers are going to look like because now, like he's, you know, as is with a lot of our returning guys, like through scout reports, I don't know those guys, like people know who they are. Like Garrett Michelle is not some unknown anymore. He's well known. So he'll be difficult. He'll get pitched more carefully. He'll probably see a lot less velocity, straight stuff. He'll see more spin, but I think he's more equipped to handle it as well, you know, with his experience. So.
Go two more with Szefc.
If this team stays healthy,
Yeah.
what do you think that this team is capable of?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think a lot of really good things. I mean, I would expect that they'd be an NCAA tournament type team that could go deep into the NCAA tournament. You know, if they play up to their capabilities and if they stay healthy. But as far as records or anything like that or personal numbers, it's hard to say. But I couldn't have told you that 2 years ago or last year either. You know, I mean, on paper we actually were better last year than we were in 22, and then we had 6 pretty substantial injuries that kind of hurt us last year. But on paper, that team was actually better. If you go back 2 years ago, I know we had a great year in 22, but on paper, that team was not like this well accomplished, going to go to a super regional type team. But it did for a lot of different reasons. And I think as long as you have really good players and they can stay healthy and they understand that it's kind of like it's a long haul versus just a short sprint. There's a lot of things you got to get through over the course of a college baseball season. But if you can get guys through it, then you'll have a lot of success with it.
Coach, you've been really high on Sam Tackett this offseason.
Yeah.
With Carson Jones and Jack Hurley departing, obviously, Sam figured to be a bigger part of this line.
Yeah.
What is it about him that had you so high on him?
Well, he had our best fall. Like, he kind of had like a really breakthrough summer. He led the NECBL in just about every offensive category. Then he played a couple weeks in Cape Cod. He had a similar breakthrough summer this past summer what Christian Martin did the summer before. And Martin came back and won a job and led our team in hitting last year. I'm not saying Tackett's going to do that, but he's got enough ability to hit for power. He'll play a very quality right field for us. If he ends up being our everyday guy out there, which at this stage of the game it appears as if he would. He just plays with like a lot of confidence, man. Like there's a lot of intangible stuff with him that you can't really like measure with a radar gun or a stopwatch, really, you know. But he's also been here. It's his 4th year now. So again, you're talking about like an experienced guy that's been around here, that's been through the NCAA tournament, that's played in Cape Cod. Like, it's important for these guys to get out on their own in the summer and figure some things out, live in different places, and, you know, swing a wooden bat for hitters and have failure. And usually when those guys come back off of that, that's where you have great years. A good example of that is looking at what Cade Hunter did 2 years ago. I mean, he had a rough summer. Him and Biddison both in Cape Cod. Like Biddison was like catching bullpens as a backup catcher. He comes out here and did what he did in 22 and ends up being a 4th round draft pick. You know, so I mean, it's just a very inexact sport, man. You know, you can write out what you think's going to happen, and it's usually not going to go that way. It might go 60% that way, but the other 30 to 40% is kind of you got to kind of feel through it.
Thank you for your time this
Yep.
morning.
All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Appreciate
Hey,
it.
we waiting on you. We didn't know.
What excites you about this group this year?
I think the unknown is probably the most exciting part about this year. You know, you look at anybody who's looked at our team in the past, and it's like, man, we normally have guys that are, you know, setting spots, roles, starting pitchers, bullpens, in the outfield. Like, we don't know this year, and there could be a multitude of guys that could flow into that, and I think that's the most exciting part. We got such a deep core that it doesn't really matter who's out there.
Carson, you mentioned the shuffling in the outfield, but the infield's the same as last year. With you guys returning those 4 guys at all 4 spots, like after what you guys were able to accomplish last year, what's the season like for you?
I mean, it's huge. First of all, everybody says, you know, your second-year guys typically have the best year they have, and I mean that's Clay, Chick, and Michelle, 3 guys returning. They had great years last year. I really think, you know, the biggest part is just the game slowing down for them. I think it's really easy to let the game speed up on you, especially in the ACC. Guys start running, pitchers are throwing hard. I mean, everything's kind of happening fast. I think like the fact that they can kind of worry about like not just themselves, but, you know, maybe the outfielders or a pitcher or something like that. They don't really have to worry about themselves so much because they've already done it.
Yeah, and those 3 guys were obviously out of the field. You had that injury at the end of last year. How does it feel to be back there in the hot corner, and are you ready to get started this year?
Yeah, I'm ready to roll. I'm 100%. I mean, shoulders all healed up. I'm ready to go. I think it's just it's exciting to get back. I'm always pretty nervous. You can't really say you're not nervous to get rolling. But yeah, I'm just ready to roll. Looking forward to Charlotte.
Carson, when you look at coming back from your injury, is it more of a physical thing or a mental thing to come back?
I think it's purely a physical thing. Really, like my shoulder was I mean, it didn't feel the best throughout last year, but I mean now I had a great doctor. I worked with Stags, our physical therapist, our like trainers. Everybody's helped me. My shoulder feels good. It's strong. It's as healthy as it can be. It's surgically repaired, so, you know, once I kind of get past that, I mean, I threw a ball in the hole the other day as hard as I could across the infield. It had some zip on it, and, you know, like getting past kind of that mark, I think is dove, pull-ups, push-ups, all that stuff. So I think it's, you know, now it's just getting physically ready to roll.
Carson, have any of your new teammates, freshmen or transfers, stood out to you?
Yeah, actually, we were talking about it earlier. I think Ben Watson, center fielder, transfer. I think he played Division III. I'm not sure where he came from, but he's been great for us. He's been hitting well, playing good defense. Grant Manning, pitcher on the mound, I think is going to be a big dark horse guy. Not a lot of people know his name. California, another small Division III school. He's had a lot of success in the fall, here in early spring. So I think those 2 guys are going to make a big impact for us.
A guy like Brady decided to come back. How big is that for you guys as a group, and when you're going up against him maybe in practice? Can you see his growth and continued development?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge to have a guy like that come back. I mean, you know, everybody is looking for a shot to play pro ball, and he got one and turned it down because he thought he was worth more than that. So I mean, that just kind of proves the kind of player he is. What he's looking at is he's like, man, you know, I'm better than that, and I think I can excel way further than what I did last year, even though he had such a great year. And then from the leadership side, I think it speaks measures to, you know, the younger guys, and I mean, even returning guys. I think it's just big to have a guy like that come back with experience that can share his knowledge.
Let's take 2 more with Carson, please.
With some new faces kind of around the team, how do you step into a role kind of as a more experienced guy, as an older guy? What's the leadership looking like and get your personality of the team?
Yeah, I think it's just now it's just I feel like guys are looking at me what to do, whether that's on or off the field, in the weight room, how we eat, what we do, you know, after practice. I think that's the whole leadership role. It's not a nerve-wracking thing for me, but it's something that it's nice to have, but it carries a lot of weight, and it's really important, especially if we have new guys playing this year, showing them how we play baseball here. So.
Last one for Carson.
In terms of the offseason, every time you guys get new freshmen, get new transfers, meshing is such a big part. What is that process like from your perspective, somebody who's been here? He's a veteran. What do you like about how this group's kind of coming together for itself?
I think this group actually meshed very quickly. I was actually up here earlier in the summer, and I was up with a lot of like the transfer pitchers, freshman guys, and it was really nice to kind of get to know guys before the season started. I didn't play a single inning this fall, so that was my whole job, was the team camaraderie and meshing guys and whatnot. So that's kind of something that I think, was like excelled this fall for us, and I think it's going to show this year, kind of like that 22 team, how close we are and how tightly knit group we are.
Thank you, Carson.
The talent that you have.
Same.
Thank you. Well, because I played baseball in high school, and I was not nearly that good, but I also played outfield. So watching how you play, that's always just been. I just love the I don't want to call it reckless, but kind of that the outfielder that plays with reckless abandonment. Have you always kind of had that mentality of just no matter what, I'm gonna catch that ball. There's nothing stopping me, not even a wall or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's. I've been playing like that since I was a little kid. Just kind of it's that kind of fire, that internal energy that I feel is just it's always been with me. I want to win, and at any cost I want to win. That's just something that I've always done, and there's no better feeling than doing it. So if that means I gotta go and make it run through a wall to go catch a baseball, I will. So yeah.
So I asked Brady, and I was kind of curious about your mentality too. So what's different about this team in comparison to last year's team, and even in comparison to the year before that? Because it was kind of a roller coaster there for a little bit, because 22 was insane. You guys did really, really well, and then last year you guys were on the up and up, and things were going really well, and then the injury bug hit, and the wheels kind of fell off. So what about this team is different than last year's team, and maybe even the year before that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities to the 22 team where we did make a run. I think off the field wise, kind of how the guys are meshing and the camaraderie that we've kind of put together. We all hang out, watch football together, and I think that's a really big part of baseball. Let alone, obviously, these guys wouldn't be here if they weren't talented to play in the ACC. Everybody's got the talent, and everybody's got that factor that'll allow them to play really well. But I think, honestly, you hit it on the head. It's the injuries. It's honestly getting lucky. It's staying healthy. And obviously we have a lot to do with that. But at the end of the day, man, I can't control if I hurt my shoulder out there. I'm working out as hard as I can, strengthening. Same thing with some other pitchers we had last year. I think it's. I think we just get very fortunate if that happens.
Well, you mentioned football. Who's your favorite team?
So I like the Commanders. I'm a Commanders fan. But yeah, I know.
We're not all perfect. It's okay. So with this team, You know, obviously you mentioned injuries and everything, but if this team stays healthy, what do you think this team is capable of?
I mean, we're not afraid to say it. You know, going to Omaha, win a championship. I think that's that's everybody's goal. You're not playing if that's not your goal. And yeah, I mean, I think we got the guys to do it. So you know, if the cards fall correctly for us, I think we have a really good shot at it.
All right. Well, thanks, man. That's all I have. Thank you.
A lot of guys dream to play pro ball. You have an opportunity decided to come back. What made you want to come back? What do you like about kind of the way this team is looking this year? And just overall, what have the past couple months been like?
That was a really tough decision to end up ultimately coming back to school after the draft. But I am happy in the decision that I made. It was a really tough one. But being here, coming to the fall with this group of guys, I think it's been totally worth it. The guys this year, it's different. I think we have a very tight group of guys in the locker room. Everybody's working towards the same goal. We all want to go to Omaha. And I think everybody has their head on their shoulders this year. So I'm excited for this group. There is a lot of unknown in it as we try to fill roles. But I think the future of this year looks really bright.
Is the unknown exciting, or is that what is that like, knowing that everybody's kind of still trying to figure it out, just like as a team?
It's exciting. I mean, we've been in this position before, especially while I've been here, so kind of getting back to that's exciting. Having a group of guys, we have a lot of transfers in this year, especially on the pitching staff. There's a lot of unknowns. We have to fill in our starting roles and reliever roles, figure out where everybody goes. And here on February 2nd with opening day 2 weeks away, we still don't have all of our roles set, so I think that's a good thing. And the hitting side, we returned a lot of guys, so I do think we do have some things that are known on that side. We returned our infield. But it is exciting to see where it's going to go over the next couple of weeks.
Brady, overall, from your perspective, what do you think is a big key to prepare for an upcoming season?
Everybody being on the same page, working towards the same goal. Everybody having that mindset that they want to achieve what they want to achieve. And that's part of the unknown being good, because nobody has a set role. So we're all working basically all together. We all want to get to the place that we want to be at. And everyone's working to get that goal, so it's making everybody push each other that much harder.
Brady, you had some great outings last season, but Coach said that you might be gearing up for a starting role. What do you think you could bring to the rotation?
That was the goal, coming back to getting the starting role, and that's kind of the way that we've been building up so far through the fall and early spring right now. I think I could bring a good amount. I've been able to add a third pitch in my changeup. I think that's a big factor in transferring from the bullpen to a starting role. But I'm excited to see over the next couple of weeks to see how I build up and how I can be effective in that role.
Who are some of those young pitchers, some of those names that people might not know that you're excited to be able to kind of get a sense of, come a couple weeks from now?
There's two big freshmen I'm excited to see this year, Brett Rimtro and Madden Clement. They have a good work ethic and they've shown really good stuff, especially at a young age. So those would be two names to look out for.
No questions for Brady?
Brady, Griffin State is a guy that Coach has been eye out for a long time. Obviously, came in as a freshman last year and did some great things for freshmen. He's taking on a bigger role this year. What do you think the ceiling is for a guy like him?
I think he has a really high ceiling. He's my throwing partner, so I get to see him up close every day and see the progress that he's made from last year with all of his pitches and his velocity, and really his mindset shift from being a freshman to being a more experienced sophomore now. So I think that's his big thing, keeping his mindset right, continuing to become better every day. I think his ceiling will be really high in the future.
And then some of the other sophomores, Jacob Exum, you got Stephanie in there, JT Gibson. What can you say about the other young guys that are in that room with you?
I would say the same thing. I think the biggest shift from freshman year to sophomore year is just growing up and maturing and really getting your first year under your belt. You're feeling college baseball, so now that they have that, coming out with that better mindset this year, they'll be able to dominate on a different level.
Take one more for Brady.
You mentioned that coming back, goal is to kind of get into starting role. What goes into that in terms of making that transition? How have you found comfort with that as you've kind of been working towards it?
It's just been a different mindset. I mean, coming out of the pen, it's rushed. Like I'm in the dugout, and then I have to go into the bullpen, get ready, and I'm right in the game. So you don't have a lot of time to prepare. So having that shift in mindset, I have time now before the game to get all my stuff in and preparing a different way and really building up to be able to throw more pitches and go longer into the game without having velocity decrease and things like that.
Brady, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, well, first and foremost, I am really curious. How is like the draft process and how all that went, and can you elaborate? Because like I've never actually done a dive into what that looks like for a player.
Yeah, it's an interesting process. So a lot of stuff goes on during the year. You're trying to focus on your college season, and then once the college season starts to come to a close, if you're going to make the playoffs, if you're not, that kind of dictates the direction you're going to go. So throughout my draft process, I had a couple pre-draft workouts, just going to major league parks and throwing bullpens and getting my work in there, kind of just showing stuff. And you just talk to teams. That's when you start ramping up and talking to teams. Start getting text messages, phone calls, filling out forms, kind of figuring out what teams like you, what teams don't. And then it's kind of just a guessing game then. You're not really 100% sure. You have the teams that are interested in you. You know that. You know the teams that aren't. And then you kind of just see where it goes from there once the actual draft day comes around.
Yeah. What do you think is different about this team in comparison to last year's team, and then even comparison to the year before that? Because it was kind of a roller coaster ride for a little bit. Because you guys had a really good year, and then you came into last year, and things were really looking up, and then injury after injury, and it just kind of fell apart, and the wheels fell off at the end. So, what about those two teams and this team that makes it different?
Well, last year, like you said, the injuries, I think that was a big part in the way that our season took a turn there, especially halfway through the year. But the difference between this year and last year, I would go with experience, because we had a lot of young arms, freshman arms thrown last year, stepping in for guys that got injured. So having that year of college under their belt, having a different mindset to be able to come out this year helps a lot. And since I've been here, this is the biggest transfer class that I've seen on the pitching side. So bringing in guys that have already pitched in college at the collegiate level, they're here now and they had the experience. So it's different than bringing freshmen in, they're ready to go. That's one reason I think we had the amount of experience we have on the staff.
So you probably haven't had to deal with it a whole lot yet, but pitch clock. With you being a pitcher, do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you not care?
I've always been a guy that works relatively fast off the mound, so it hasn't really played that much of an effect on me. But it is a little bit different knowing that you have to, I would say. But I think it's a big thing for the hitters too. My thought process, it's always the hitters that are taking longer to get into the box. So making them get in there early and then being able to kind of hold on the clock and pitch around it, it kind of can be played to your advantage if you do it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all that I had, man. But it was good talking to you. I appreciate it.